Kind of show the Eric Dempsey's Resolution Fitness Hour with Eric Dempsey. Looking right here to my left, your right is Eric Dempsey. Eric, how you doing, man?
Doing all right so far.
All right, great. Appreciate it. I hope you had thank you for your service. Happy Memorial Day, one day late on that, but thank you for your service.
Yeah, that was Memorial Day is a great occasion to reflect back on all the brave men and women who sacrificed everything for our freedoms. It's great.
Absolutely. We appreciate it very much, and thank you for that. And hope you had a good weekend and the family's doing well. How's the princess?
She's doing good. She had a good day yesterday. Went to the pool and got to relax. She's glad she's done with third grade and ready for the summer.
Wow, done with third grade. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too because it's already starting that with us because I saw my little granddaughter and she's 4 and getting ready to go to pre-K, and I'm going like, pre-K? She was just born like yesterday.
Yeah, it's crazy how time goes by so fast.
It does, absolutely on that. So, this is of course sorry about that, everybody. All these different things on here, so I'm saying, I guess the holidays have been upon us, and now everybody has cheated and or eaten unhealthy or whatever they have to do. Did you find a lot of that gorging during the holiday season?
I suppose there are some, but not really. I mean, some people probably have some things that aren't on their normal routine, but it's like people are eating jacked up 24/7, 365 anyway. So what they do over a weekend really doesn't matter.
I guess that's
if your lifestyle is all messed up and you're overweight and dying from all these different diseases because of what you do every day, you don't sweat the holidays. Might as well eat your cake on the holiday or whatever you're going to do, because it don't matter if the rest of the week and the rest of the month's jacked up.
Not going to make. Well, let's talk about speaking of different times and areas and zones and stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the fat burning zone.
Yeah,
that sounds like it's like a movie or something.
That's an old classic. The fat burning zone. That's one of those.
On TBS tonight. The fat burning zone.
The zone.
The zone. Another episode of Eric Dempsey's Resolution Fitness Hour. In the fat burning zone.
It's kind of like the Twilight Zone,
but
the big thing is it's like the fat burning zone's been a setting on treadmills for the last 1,000 years, right? I mean, everybody goes to the gym and works in their fat burning zone to get rid of all the fat and stuff. But the reality is there is a fat burning zone, but it's not the setting on the treadmill. That's one of the myths of the universe, and the funny thing is where you actually, the fat burning zone, where you burn the highest degree of fat, at one particular intensity level, is actually like when you're sitting on the couch and watching the game. So that's when the percentage of fat oxidation for fuel use is the highest, right? But the reality is if you're sitting on the couch watching a game, how much fat could you possibly be burning, right? So even though your system is efficiently using the most fat, you're not using any to speak of, so therefore the fat burning zone really means nothing, like zero, nada. It's a myth. So
it's a myth.
Yeah, so it's a false reality, and it's a setting on a treadmill that somebody made $1 billion off of many years ago. And, the fat burning zone is actually, even though it's true in context to a degree, the big thing is you got to understand how fat is burned to begin with, and that's a whole separate process.
I like to deviate and change gears a little bit on this, but kind of on the same topic. Something that I'm seeing is really big now, because we're a technology-driven society, if you will, right now.
Yeah.
These Fitbit, watches and all that stuff like that.
Yeah, all the different tracking devices.
Myth or reality? Something good or just a hype that you're wasting money on?
Well, for the most part, depends on how you use it, right? But most people track calories burned, with these Fitbits and all these other things, but they don't track how many calories they ate, or they don't track how many calories they're supposed to eat. So how many calories were you supposed to burn? You know, when you're talking about a math equation, you're measuring these calories burned because theoretically you're supposed to, you know, burn more than you take in, right, for weight loss. You know, it's a simple math, but if you don't know how much you ate, then how do you know if what you burned or not makes a difference? Because if you don't have the entire equation for the math problem, you know, once again, you come up with no answer because you're only getting part of the equation, right? You're getting calories burned, calories expended during that one period, but you're not getting, you know, you don't have anything to base it off of because how much did you eat that day? You know, so your calorie expenditure versus calorie, you know, the entire equation has to be tracked. So people don't, they just track what they burned. And what they burn, calories, right? They burn 500 calories. Where 500 calories come from? Calorie is just a measurement of heat. You know, you need to measure. So what did you burn? You know, breakfast, fat, you know, lean body mass, fat mass. What did you burn? And you know, so the big thing is people don't understand there's a lot more to it than just calories and whatnot. You know, it's the whole thing with the calorie thing. If you're tracking calories burned, I recommend you track. You know, better start tracking and get a clue as to what it's all for because everybody posts like, "Oh, I burned 500 calories." Okay, well, so how much did you eat that day? You know, I mean, nobody knows, and so it's just kind of something that if you did it right, it could be valuable. But for most people, they don't do it right, so therefore, it's irrelevant. Actually, it has no really tactical bearing on the solution because if you're not tracking all the numbers, then what you're running the risk of is all those calories burned is coming from lean body mass instead of fat, and therefore you're getting skinny fat, you're getting sarcopenia and osteopenia, the loss of bone mineral density, the loss of muscle mass, and you know you're retaining body fat. So that's where the skinny fat thing comes from. So it's really it's a complicated thing, and most people just can't grasp anything beyond I burned 500 calories. That's all they get. So whatever, you know, it's like people are making billions of dollars off of it, but it's really unless you know the whole equation. All that stuff is a waste of time, you know. It's really
it's not cheap. I
no,
can say that.
it's
and you know, and it's
all these different things on your watches and your tablets and your phones and your forehead and your arm and your this and your that. You know, nothing works because
Hello, Lori. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Lori.
And so the Fitbit thing is cool if you do the whole thing. If you do not just Fitbit, but any of those data tracking things, you got to do the whole thing. Like you either track all the numbers. That's like doing a math problem with just half of the equation. It doesn't work. So long term, it'll fail.
706-940-0541, 940-0541, area code 706 if you want to call and ask Eric. Eric is a certified weight loss expert and certified weight loss nutritionist. He's a academician, a personal trainer, fitness expert. And, you know, you can't, this is an opportunity to, he comes in here and free of charge for an hour each week and can give you the advice that you're looking for and can help you with that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something that I was just thinking about this weekend. But you know, getting back to the, you know, you were talking about technology and things like that. I think that when you say you know, people could become, I guess, rationalize using something like that, saying like, oh, I made this particular number on my watch, and my watch says, you know, I did this, so therefore I did it. You know,
Well, that's what they do. It's one of those things, kind of like it makes you feel good because you accomplished something. You didn't really accomplish that much, but you know, going out and doing cardio, most people don't do it right, and so therefore, you know, after about the first 30 minutes of cardio, you're really kind of like you're burning bridges after that because your glucose levels and your glycogen, your glucose levels, which is all about, you know, the fuel sources, right? Once you burn that after the first 30 minutes or so, you know, everybody thinks like, oh, then you start burning fat. That's why you got to do cardio for so long. But what really happens is you start burning, you go through the protein conversion to glucose, right? And where the majority of the conversion is protein with a little bit of fat to produce more sugar, right? And so, like, once you get 45 minutes into it, and you're looking at your calories burned, you have no idea where those calories are coming from.
Well, one thing like you're saying is, and it just made me think about something is that, like a lot of people have the things that count their steps.
Yeah.
And they go, and I mean, it sounds cool. They come and they go like I did 10,000 steps.
10,000 steps a
But
day.
the thing is that, you know what? Let's say that was me that said that. Maybe 10,000 steps for an overweight fat guy is not good at all. I mean, you see what I'm saying? I mean, maybe, so it sounds impressive on that. I walk 10,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
But then when you find out, like, well, you should be walking, I'm just making this up, but, you should be walking to be healthy, 20,000 steps a day minimum, on that. And you go, oh, really? Because it can be, the numbers like that and stuff can be deceptive and deceiving. I mean, I know that, one thing that you taught me, was I got very comfortable. I started out I'm very, very small, which I need to get back to, of using some hand weights and stuff like that. And I got to the point where I went months and months and said, oh man, I could do this 50 times, like this and stuff like that. And don't even break out a sweat.
Yeah,
and,
with the 3 pound hand, with
Yeah.
2 pound dumbbell.
Well, when I first started, it was hard. On that.
Yeah.
But the point is like you said, is that I needed to progress further from that.
Well,
where it was back again, difficult again.
But it's not. You see, the problem is it's not cut and dried. It's not always like more is better, harder is better, longer is better. So like when you're talking about cardio, you actually become more efficient at cardio the more you do it, right? So when you're trying, if you can picture like an engine on a sports car becoming fine-tuned, right? So each race it goes out on, it burns less gas. It gets more miles to the gallon, right? So your body becomes more efficient in that same manner. So any fat that you were to oxidize after the burn off of the glucose in the first half an hour, the longer you go, you're going to burn less and less fat each time because your body gets more miles to the gallon. So it actually, the longer you go and the more you do the same kind of routine, not only do you adapt to it, and it shuts all the progress down, in the plateau scenario, but you become efficient. Your body is an amazing thing, and it becomes efficient. And once that happens, it's then you're out there just doing stuff, and you're not even burning the stuff you were burning 2 weeks ago. So it's really complicated. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye. It's not about more is better. It's about doing what works and doing what's required to meet your goal. And most people, they're not even in the ballpark of where they're supposed to be doing. It's kind of like the calorie thing, right? When you're eating, when you go on a weight loss program and the whole doctrine is eat less and exercise more, right? Therefore you have to eat less and exercise more continuously. And when you plateau, that means you got to eat less and exercise more. I mean, there's a dead end to that at some point, right? Because when you run out of food, when you're eating less, if you're down to like 1 meal a day and you plateau, what do? Go to half a meal a day, and then what? And then you go to no food a day, and you go from like doing a 5K to a 10K to a half marathon to a marathon. So you end up being in the death camp, a self-imposed death camp, right? And so, that's the whole thing with this cardio-based, all these guidelines that you get from the USDA and your doctors and everything, 150 minutes of cardio a week. Well, if you just do your 150 minutes of cardio a week, after the first couple weeks, the efficiency of that cardio your body becomes more efficient, but the efficiency for fat burning becomes less and less and less. So that's not the answer. And what does work is the stuff that I teach, obviously. And, and that was over 3 decades of trial and error because I was indoctrinated in the traditional methods. And, I used to wonder, why is this not working now? After you've been really working hard, doing all these great, phenomenal things, and all of a sudden you're not making progress. So your body adapts, you become more efficient, you burn less fat. You know, the whole thing is a spiraling, you know, just chaotic burning balloon of fire going down to the ground. And, you know, it's frustrating. And then you tap out, and then you're like, oh, you get frustrated because there's a cycle. And if you stay in that traditional mindset, you will just continually whirl around in this cycle of despair where you can't win. Okay? So what to do instead is, instead of doing the traditional stuff, you know,
Welcome, Sherry.
you could walk out and do, you know, short, high intensity bursts. You know, you could do the big thing is after about 2 to 4 weeks, you really need to shake things up and do things different. Okay, and that means, you know, progression has to be weekly. You know, you got to look at like a 5% progression, roughly 5% in your strength training and your cardio. And I would reverse the guidelines. Say, you know, like 150 minutes of cardio a week. They want you to do it like 5 to 6 days a week and everything. But what I would actually do is reverse that. I would do resistance training all that time and do the cardio stuff, you know, on the off days, because you don't need that much cardio, number one. And number two, you get way more bang for the buck when you're doing strength training and resistance training, because if you've never done it, okay, all you got to do is, you know, lift weights faster if you want cardio. Okay, so there's no point in doing all these separate things, like going to a gym to walk on a treadmill is like probably the most ridiculous money wasting thing I've ever seen, because they got 100 treadmills lined up, and the weight section is like really small in some gyms, and the whole thing should be reversed. It should be all weights with a couple treadmills. And when you get on the treadmill, how about this? How about doing sprints on it? Sprints, moving fast, right? Exerting yourself. Either walk slow or sprint. The in-between stuff where you do this long distance, steady paced kind of cardio is actually the most inflammatory and the least effective, with the least transference of any benefit. And so, but the next class I've been working on, I'm going to do a video on the three phases of fat loss when you're using cardio. And that involves mobilizing fatty acids out of the fat cells, transporting the fatty acids through the bloodstream, and getting the fatty acids into the muscle so it can be burned or oxidized at the mitochondrial level of the muscles. Right now you're talking about cellular level stuff way down in the trenches, right? But that's what you got to do to actually burn fat. Because people, you know, burn calories, burn fat. What's that all mean? Burn calories. What do? Pour gas on it, light it on fire? I mean, like, how do you burn fat? So fat is oxidized, you know, and there's a bunch of big words for it, and I try to keep it simple. You know, I prefer the educated caveman version, you know, small syllable words that are easy to say without coffee and stuff. And if I got to bust open the book and start looking in the thesaurus and how to pronounce crap, you might as well forget it, right? So you want to keep things simple, and you want to look at, you know, fat burning and muscle building are the two main things that you want to do. And that's going to cause you to look better, feel better, and perform better, right? So, you know, why would you want to do anything that doesn't do that? Okay, traditional cardio, traditional dieting, none of that stuff does the, you know, burn fat, build muscle, look better, feel better, and perform better, which is what you're really trying to do. When you look at any fitness goal, that's really all you're trying to do, is burn fat, build muscle, look better, feel better, and perform better. That increases your quality of life, it increases your health, it increases everything, all good things in the universe, right? That makes you feel better, you know, psychologically, physically, you know, and, you know, that'll put you in a better spiritual realm as well, right? So pretty much resistance training is the key. The cardio stuff, you know, if you're doing resistance training on a regular basis for the cardio, you can ask any clients to get cardio. Any set of any exercise, they're doing cardio. And so if you're talking about fat burning, then you want to talk about minimal rests, very total body, multi-joint, compound movements that really create a metabolic effect or a disturbance in the force, and you want to be able to execute these high-intensity, short-duration workouts that really work everything all at once and create a big metabolic distress on the system, causes your body to massively adapt by burning fat and building muscle. Okay. Totally different concept than your traditional cardio where you're just basically out on a death march, wasting away. And you're literally wasting away like stuff that keeps you alive. Okay, you're talking about bone mineral density loss, you're talking about muscle loss, water loss, connective tissue, organ tissue, all this stuff that you need, right? You don't need to be speeding yourself well on the way to chronic inflammation by doing all this bad cardio. So cardio has to be done in its proper sequence, too, in order to get the maximal effect. So cardio. So in order to mobilize, transport, and oxidize fat, you have to use the 3 different intensity levels of cardio, which is simply low, medium, and high, right? The sequence in which you do that is what